Yeah, you're welcome again, students, to section 3 of unit 4, which actually talks about information service. By way of sessional objectives, let me indicate that by the end of this lesson, we expect that you would be able to do the following. 1. Explain the information service. 2. Discuss the importance of information service. 3. List the objectives of the information service in secondary school. 4. Identify types and uses of information. 5. Outline the principles of information service. And the sixth one says discuss methods of collecting and giving information. Information service explained by Eshan 2000 submits that information service provides all the necessary data and information, guides and students to make choices that will contribute to the attainment of their educational objectives and goals. Besides that, Taylor and Bucco 2006 explained that information service provides appropriate and relevant data to students on their educational, vocational, and personal and social opportunities and growth. And the last one said the availability of data enables students to make better and well-informed choices and decisions. Now, in support of the above view, Beduado 2000 opines that information service is designed to provide students with a greater knowledge of educational, vocational, and social personal opportunities so that they can make better informed choices and decisions in increasingly complex society. Now, Akinide, etc., also defines information service as the totality of data gathered and presented to the clients by the counselor to facilitate awareness, knowledge, appraisal, decision making, and evaluation. Now, the importance of information service. Chauhan 2004 discusses three major reasons why information service is vital to an organized school guidance program. First of all, it is fundamental. If students are to be given the basic knowledge needed to think through important personal issues like the extent of education, choices of occupation, and maintenance of individuality. Now, becoming a fully functional members of the society requires that the individual looks out, recognizes and uses available and relevant information necessary for development. Secondly, present-day youth are expected to assume more autonomous responsibility than their predecessors. This really demands a well-designed informational service to help the youth become self-regulatory, and essential element of being self-regulatory is that individuals should know what they are doing as they do it and act correctly on the basis of known data. Now, the final one is an information service is fundamental if the students are to explore and become aware of the contingencies of stability and change that make their developments. Now, peoples need to explore the positions that they are likely to occupy as they move through the one or more of their possible pathways of life. be it in returns of choosing career or choosing a partner. Now, lack of knowledge of self-development frequently leads to failure, rejection, depression, and defeats. Knowledge in self-development leads to positive images and encourages individual vocational congruence. To say more to that, when an individual understands himself, he is able to gather and use information that is likely to help him enter his future vacation with little or no struggle. Now, for objectives of the information service in the senior high school, Norris and others, 1972, suggests objectives of the information service for the secondary school include the following. 1. To evaluate one's self-perception of abilities and interests against actual vocational requirements. 2. To identify and demonstrate job acquisition skills. 3. To develop skill awareness and self-confidence in the individual's anticipated choice of occupational clusters. Now 4. To develop in the individual the recognition of the relationship between personal values and the influence of others upon his occupational choice, and to learn to apply the decision-making process to the personal identification of tentative occupational choice as the fifth one. Now, to develop tentative educational and occupational plans based upon thorough self-study. So, to prevent specific techniques to aid in meeting immediate needs confronting school leavers, such as obtaining employment, continuing an educational program, or establishing a home. Now, types of information. There are 3 types of information service required for an effective guidance program, and these are educational, occupational, and personal social. Now, types of information. We have educational information. So, Norris and others, 1972, really define educational information as educational information is valid and usable data about all types of present and probably future educational or training opportunities and requirements, including curriculum and non-curriculum offerings, requirements for entrance and conditions and regulations of student life. Now, in that respect, the data must be able to equip students, counselors, teachers, and parents with vital and correct knowledge about educational programs and opportunities. The next is educational information in secondary school also includes data on available tertiary or post-secondary institutions in the country or region. Next is curriculum offerings, subjects in these institutions. The next is admission requirements in tertiary or post-secondary school institutions. Then subjects required for specific professions or courses in tertiary institutions. So costs of going to a tertiary or secondary institution, that's boarding and tuition fees. Now next is ways of financing tertiary or secondary education, and that is scholarships, student loans, self and guardian sponsorship. Next is student social life and culture opportunities and post-secondary school educational programs. Occupation types of information, continuous occupational information. This is also known as career information, and according to Norris et al. 72, occupational or career information is valid and usable data about positions, jobs, and occupations, including duties, requirements for entrance, and conditions of work, rewards, and sources for further information. Now, such information is to give every detail of the job one really wants to do for a living. Yeah, so Schertzer and Stone 1976 summarize components of career or occupational information to include 1. The structure and major groups within an occupation. 2. The nature of occupations, the nature of work. 3. Preparations needed for the different types of occupations. And then the next is qualifications needed or necessary for employment in various occupations. Next is procedures for entering and advancing in an occupation. Next is conditions of work in the various occupations. And then salary structure, wages, and other benefits. Finally, occupational hazards. Now, the next is personal social information. Now, according to Norris and others, so personal social information is valid and usable data about the opportunities and influences of the human physical environment which bear on personal and interpersonal relationship. Now, such information is about human beings and helps students to understand themselves better and thereby improve on how they relate with others. The personal and social service is concerned with obtaining and using information which deals with conditions and factors including 1. Achieving self-insights and understanding. Yeah, so achieving mature relationships with the same and opposite sex. Next is understanding gender roles, and then understanding one's behavior and one's characteristics. Understanding how one differs from others and in what way one is like others. The next is understanding others' behaviors and their needs and adjusting, accepting, and understanding home conditions, family members, and parental expectation. Knowledge of dating practices, sex information, marriage responsibilities appears to be the next one. And then we move to personal appearance, manners, and etiquette. Finally, social skills, financial planning, and leisure time activities. Now, uses of information. Based on a survey, Bear, Roger, and others came out with 7 ways through which information can be put to use. And of course, these are 1. Assurance use. And by this assurance use, simply talks about the fact that information may be used to assure the student of the appropriateness of his decision. The next is evaluative use. And this one also explains that information service data may be used to check the accuracy and adequacy of students' knowledge and understanding of a decision. The next is exploratory use. And that one is also about the fact that information may be used to help students to explore and study all alternatives of possible choices of decisions. Then maybe the final was readjustive use, and this one also explains the fact that for students who have markedly inappropriate goal, information data may be used to help them reorient themselves to different levels of goals or objectives. Now, again, synthesis use. Here talks about the fact that informational data must be related to other personal data, such as tests. This encourages the synthesis of a pattern of behavior. Information use also says data are used to add to students' knowledge of occupation, choices, changing conditions, and the like. And then we have verification use. That one also says that information materials may be used by students to verify, clarify choices, opportunities, and decisions. Now, principles of information service. The principles which really underscore the information service may be summarized as following. 1. It is an essential part of the school guidance program, and students have problems to cope with academic and social decisions to make, careers to plan, which demand information. Now, they need as much information about themselves and about their world as they can acquire. Now, the second one says, the focus of the informational service is personal study and future trends and change. Then here we indicate that after helping students to appraise themselves, their abilities, their aptitude, their attitude, and personal characteristics, tentative educational, vocational plans should result from putting these against study of change. Yeah, so 3, both group and individual techniques are used to convey informational data to students and to assist them in interpreting and using such data. Now, group approaches represent a medium through which information about the work world and educational decisions may lead to personality change, goal setting, decision making, and planning, peer reaction, and influence significantly affects an individual goals, decision, and achievements. Now, group approaches is built upon interests, attitudinal, and motivational factors. Individual approach, on the other hand, are designed to assist individuals. Realities of work and education for individuals can be considered as they are assisted to become aware of their development and progression. 4. The information service is more than information given. Information service is more than securing additional vocational and personal social data and handling materials to students to read. The implication of this is that attention will be given to the individual's attitudes and emotional reactions to the information. Now, presentation of information must be planned in terms of student needs, and individuals should be given the opportunity to react to what is presented. The individual's perception based upon selective attention to materials must be taken into consideration or account. Data must be sought, weighed, and then assessed in relation to each people. Now, qualified personnel to staff information service is essential. That's the fifth one. Here, the quality of staff will be reflected in quality of service delivery. Therefore, guidance administrator must accept the carry out staff of upgrading and assignments and reassignments to ensure quality staff. Now, the sixth one says that the information service must contain provisions for its evaluation. There is need for both formative and summative evaluation of techniques and results. Now, the people, teacher, and counselor reactions to the service should be examined to determine if better ways can be found to achieve the objectives of the information service. Now, methods of collecting and giving information. So there are several ways through which information could be collected and then given to people or students. One is written sources. Now, from this, many industries, professions, and institutions publish relevant information about their establishments and institutions in booklets, catalogs, brochures, occupational monographs, brief guides, and other printed materials. There are a lot of information on jobs and institutions could also be obtained from advertisements, newspapers, and magazines. The next is career conferences and conventions. There's another method of collecting information is through career conferences and conventions. Now, these can take different forms, but they generally involve people on the job who actually describe their work to the children and students. Now, the next one is visits. Okay, so people, students could further obtain information through visits. They can visit factories, industries, colleges, schools, polytechnics, among others. On their return to school, the students must have the opportunity to discuss the visits, focusing on the job requirements, job satisfaction, admission requirements, and so forth and so on. The next is street survey. For street survey, students could also be undertaking street survey which will yield information about jobs in the local community or town. The students working in groups of 2 or 3 may be assigned a number of business to or shops along streets. They visit each business or shop to collect information about the nature of employment, about the nature of available, the kind of presentation required for each job, how to get employment there, and the conditions of service. The next is teaching occupations. Occupations could be taught in formal lessons to students This will save the time he would actually use to discuss the same problem in many individual counseling sessions. The next is on the job learning. Occupational information could also be obtained in actual work. There are many ways of doing this. Children can do a lot of partial work connected with their studies. Some of the children also do vocation jobs through which they can actually gain experience. Finally, we talk about variety. Other ways of providing information to children include the use of audio-visual aids, for example, slides, forms, radio, cassettes, notice boards, and bulletin boards. The computer could also be useful in providing information to children. Thank you.